on Alberta statehood?
Well, there's a group of Albertans that are working together right now to put together a delegation to go to Washington to talk to the Trump administration about Alberta petitioning for U.S. statehood. It's quite evident that we're being governed by idiots in Ottawa who don't understand that we can't afford a trade war with our largest trading partner, and rather than simply apologizing to President Trump for not meeting our NATO commitments and not adequately securing our border, apparently the Trudeau government has decided to declare a trade war and run up trillions of dollars in costs like they did during COVID on a made-up emergency. So there's a number of us in Alberta that have had enough and want to go speak with the Trump administration about the benefits of Alberta joining the United States.
Something is shifting in the heart of Canada. It's not quiet anymore. It's not patient. It's not asking politely for a seat at the table. Alberta and Saskatchewan, the very provinces that built this country's strength, are standing up, staring east, and saying enough. For years, Ottawa has acted like the West is just an afterthought, a resource pit to tax, regulate, and lecture about the environment. They build their power in glass towers while the people who power the nation work in the cold, digging, drilling, building. And now, finally, that patience has run out. Because when you've carried a country on your back for decades and still get treated like the villain, there comes a breaking point. That point is now. Across Alberta coffee shops, oil fields, and family kitchens, a new conversation has begun. It's bold. It's risky. And it's something nobody thought they'd hear in their lifetime. What if Alberta joined the United States? Crazy? Maybe. But here's the thing, the people asking that question aren't radicals. They're business owners. Workers. Farmers. Ordinary Canadians who've watched their livelihoods destroyed by policies written 1,000 miles away by people who've never set foot on a rig or a refinery floor. They're tired of waiting for Ottawa to get it. They've realized Ottawa never will. Under Trump's return to the White House, something unexpected happened. Washington suddenly feels closer than Ottawa. For the first time in decades, someone powerful south of the border seems to understand the West, the oil, the gas, the backbone of this continent. Trump's energy policies have turned into a symbol of opportunity. While Ottawa talks about net zero dreams and just transitions, Alberta looks south and sees pipelines, projects, and jobs. Real jobs, the kind that build futures, not slogans.
Before moving forward, do subscribe for Parliament updates.
And that's why a group of Albertans has started preparing an actual delegation to go to Washington to sit down with Trump's administration and talk about something unheard of, Alberta's potential petition for U.S. statehood. You can laugh. But they're serious. Because this isn't just about politics anymore. It's about survival. They've watched Ottawa wage trade wars with the very country that buys most of their oil. They've seen pipelines killed, projects frozen, and billions in investment evaporate because someone in the East wanted to impress the global stage. Meanwhile, foreign oil from regimes with 10 times the emissions keeps pouring in. It's hypocrisy at its finest, and the West is done paying for it. People are asking the question out loud now, if Ottawa won't fight for us, why not fight for ourselves? Even Saskatchewan, steady, loyal Saskatchewan, is starting to stir. Talk of referendums, discussions of self-determination, whispers of what it might look like to finally have control. Not separation out of hate, but out of exhaustion. Out of the realization that they can't keep watching their industries crumble while bureaucrats debate carbon credits on Parliament Hill. And in the middle of all this chaos stands Mark Carney, the polished Prime Minister with his global charm and green ambitions. To some, he's the symbol of progress. To others, he's the face of the problem. The man who talks about transition while towns collapse. Who smiles on TV about economic cooperation while Western paychecks vanish. Now, suddenly, Carney is panicking. Because Alberta and Saskatchewan aren't waiting anymore. They're reaching out, building ties with Washington, looking for deals that bypass Ottawa altogether. And for the first time, Ottawa can feel power slipping from its hands.
Statistics Canada, for the fourth consecutive year, production of crude oil and equivalent projects reached a record high
in 2024, up 4.3% from 2023. I do really quickly want to turn to asking you about.
I just want to say we have an aspiration to double our production, and we could have been at already probably 6 to 7 to 8 million barrels a day. That's what I'm looking at. And why should we hold ourselves back when we know the world wants our products? This is the time for us to build them.
Yeah, I guess I'm just countering the idea that things are destitute or that nothing is being developed or production is extremely capped. Like, the numbers bear out a different story. They're not perhaps as high as you and other people in the province or maybe even across the country want to see, but they're not going down.
Actually, we've got the lowest living standards in the world. Like, we're falling behind all the OECD countries in productivity growth and standard of living growth. And that's because these are the kind of projects that consistently fail and do not get built. So we can't sugarcoat that. That is a reality. If we want to be a rich country and we want to be able to keep up with our neighbors in growth, we've got to build things. We've got to dig things out of the ground. We've got to get products to market.
Carney calls press conferences, announces new partnerships, promises to reevaluate energy security, but everyone can see what's happening. It's not leadership, it's damage control. The West isn't asking for permission this time. For decades, the federal government treated Alberta and Saskatchewan as if they were too dependent, too rebellious, too rough around the edges to make their own choices. But those so-called rough edges are exactly what built Canada's economy. Every skyscraper in Toronto, every government grant in Ottawa, every imported luxury paid for by the resource wealth of the West. And now, the same West that powered Canada is being told to shut down, to transition, to apologize for producing energy. Imagine that. The people who keep the lights on being lectured by those who've never seen a frozen pipeline at dawn or spent a night in a drilling camp. The people who built the country's prosperity being told they're the problem. No wonder the anger is spreading like wildfire. This movement, whether it ends in autonomy, statehood, or something entirely new, is more than politics. It's about dignity. About fairness. About a country that's forgotten how to treat its hardest working citizens with respect. Ottawa's been warned for years. Every election, every protest, every failed pipeline was a message. But they didn't listen. They thought the West would always fall back in line. They were wrong. Because this time, Alberta and Saskatchewan aren't just threatening. They're planning. They're organizing. They're reaching across borders, talking to real decision-makers, and refusing to be silenced by Ottawa's politics or Carney's press releases. And somewhere deep inside, every Canadian knows, this is a turning point. The kind that doesn't come twice. The kind that decides who actually controls the country's future. The West isn't whispering anymore. It's roaring. Across towns from Red Deer to Regina, the talk is no longer if something changes, it's when. And the question everyone's asking is simple: who really owns the future of the West, Ottawa or us? The answer, for many, has never been clearer. Ottawa has forgotten that Alberta and Saskatchewan aren't just provinces. They're powerhouses. Every barrel of oil, every grain shipment, every pipeline that once pulsed through the prairies built the wealth that politicians in the East now take for granted. But when those same politicians began treating oil like poison and industry like sin, they lit a fuse they can no longer put out. And now that fuse has reached the end. Mark Carney's speeches about green prosperity no longer inspire. They infuriate. The same man who once promised a balanced transition now talks like the country can survive on windmills and wishful thinking. He says Canada will lead the world in clean energy. But in Alberta, families are struggling to pay their bills, businesses are shutting their doors, and workers are watching their futures disappear, all in the name of someone else's dream. The patience of the West is done. They've played by Ottawa's rules for decades, and what did it get them? Higher taxes, pipeline bans, and unemployment lines. Now, finally, they're done waiting for permission. They're drawing their own map. And south of the border, someone's listening. Trump's administration has quietly welcomed conversations that Ottawa pretends aren't happening. Meetings are being discussed. Delegates are being assembled. Alberta leaders are drafting talking points that sound less like requests and more like proposals. It's bold. It's dangerous. It's historic. Because no matter how symbolic it begins, this movement is real. People are fundraising. Legal experts are exploring what it would take to petition for U.S. statehood. And every time Carney dismisses it as nonsense, the resolve grows stronger. He doesn't realize that by mocking the West, he's feeding the very fire that could burn through Confederation itself. Then came the moment that shook everyone, Trump mentioning Alberta and Saskatchewan by name. In a televised energy roundtable, he said, "We love those guys up north, they get it. They work hard, they build things, and they've been treated very unfairly." That single line electrified the prairies. It wasn't just words, it was recognition. Something Ottawa hasn't offered in years. Carney's office went into panic mode. Suddenly, press conferences about energy collaboration and cross-border partnerships started popping up overnight. Ottawa wanted to look like it was in control again. But it was too late. People had already seen what real support looks like. While Ottawa lectures, Washington listens. While Carney talks about transition, Trump talks about production. While Canada's leaders stall pipelines, the U.S. president says, "Build them faster." And for the first time, Alberta and Saskatchewan feel seen, not as problems to manage, but as partners in progress. Of course, the East calls it betrayal. They say it's reckless. They say it's un-Canadian. But what's more un-Canadian, asking for fairness, or watching your economy die in silence? This isn't about turning against Canada. It's about saving the part of Canada that still believes in hard work and common sense. The part that doesn't want to be told that oil is evil while the same government buys barrels from dictatorships overseas. If Ottawa truly cared about unity, it would fix the injustice that created this moment. But they won't, because deep down, they never thought the West would actually fight back.
New Prime Minister is a whole new level of climate zealot and eco-extremist. From his decades-long push for net zero banking that sought to make it impossible for banks to invest in oil and gas, to his promise now to massively increase carbon taxes on our industry, make no mistake, he wants to eviscerate our oil and gas industry. It's right in his book. In Canada, our national identity, unity, our freedom, and our future are at a monumental crossroads.
By the time 2028 comes around, Trump may be gone, Washington may change again, but Alberta and Saskatchewan will remember what it felt like to be heard. To be valued. To be powerful. And maybe, just maybe, that's what scares Ottawa most. Because when a people realize they no longer need permission to lead, you can't control them anymore. And that's exactly what's happening now. The West isn't breaking away from Canada, Canada is breaking away from the West. And when history looks back, it won't remember this as an act of division, but as the moment the forgotten provinces finally took their future into their own hands. A storm is coming. And it's not one that Ottawa can regulate, tax, or silence. It's made of people who've had enough. The world is watching. The clock is ticking. And the West is done waiting. Because this time, the message isn't whispered, it's shouted across the prairies, clear and defiant. We built this country. We bled for it. And now we're taking it back. By the time 2028 comes around, Trump may be gone, Washington may change again, but Alberta and Saskatchewan will remember what it felt like to be heard. To be valued. To be powerful. And maybe, just maybe, that's what scares Ottawa most. Because when a people realize they no longer need permission to lead, you can't control them anymore. And that's exactly what's happening now. The West isn't breaking away from Canada, Canada is breaking away from the West. And when history looks back, it won't remember this as an act of division, but as the moment the forgotten provinces finally took their future into their own hands. A storm is coming. And it's not one that Ottawa can regulate, tax, or silence. It's made of people who've had enough. The world is watching. The clock is ticking. And the West is done waiting. Because this time, the message isn't whispered, it's shouted across the prairies, clear and defiant. We built this country. We bled for it. And now we're taking it back.
Canada debates.